Okay, so today's talk is about real estate market changes due to COVID-19. And, as, I don't know where things went, but as, you know, phase three happens and more things open, this could change a little bit, but this is basically as of stage two. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to introduce myself. I'll give you a current market update of what's going on in the market now, what's happening with financing and loads, the specific changes, mandates affecting buyers and sellers, some additional addendums and contracts, as well as practices for showing properties and on the part of selling agents and listing agents, and then best practices for marketing within this climate of social distancing and stay-at-home orders. But before I get started, a little about me. Again, my name is Lenora Lostaunau. I have a master's degree in strategic communications, more commonly known as marketing communications, and I am your local realtor. I live here in OB. I've been in the real estate industry, either a marketing real estate or as a real estate agent for about 50 years, and I'm also a realtor. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I just mentioned that because being a realtor can be kind of a tenuous, scary situation at times. I just always say there's always a problem in every real estate transaction. It's just about how you handle it and how you navigate the waters. And so I feel like just my people skills and listening and understanding really comes in handy. And in the old days, when you used to sit in the car with people, it helped make conversation as well. In addition to that, I'm a mother. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She goes to OB Elementary. Her name is Sophia Ocean, and she is the prize of my life. I also surf. That's probably my favorite hobby. I spend a lot of time down at the pier, Avalanche, and in the summertime, surfing at the jetty. I have been walking around diligently with my mask and my pug, trying to get out and enjoy what we're allowed to do. Looking forward to be able to sit on the beach again this weekend. And then, that's not something that most people talk about when they're marketing their real estate portfolio, but I'm a loving, caring human. I really see the way some people get treated by their realtors, like they're a financial statement or a bottom line. And I don't wish I could do that. I mean, I just couldn't, even if I could. I wouldn't even if I could, because it's just such a big deal. It's people's love, sweat, and tears, and what they put into their savings, and whether they're buying their first property or their forever home, or they're leveraging real estate as investment for building wealth for themselves and the family. It means a lot. And if I work with you, number one, we're going to make sure it's a good fit for both of us, because then it doesn't become work at all. And then number two, I really take care of you like family. So moving on to the market activity. This is what's going on as of this week. So currently in the market, there are 5,348 properties, new listings, 752, recent sales, 368, and pending sales, 799. The median home price is $587,500. And basically, that's some market statistics. Here's a couple of slides. The next two slides are going to be about our markets right near us. So even though I work all over San Diego County, I like to stick to where I play. So, Point Loma, Ocean Beach, and then the 8 corridor, I end up doing most of my business. But in addition to education, these slides are to show you that the market, despite what some people think, has not slowed down. It's moving. Homes are selling. People are listing properties. People are buying properties. And I'll get into a little bit more specifics of that activity and the implications moving forward. But here's some color bar graphs that are fun. Look good on the PowerPoint. Again, the market is definitely still plugging away it has not stopped for COVID or pandemic or Trump orders or anything else. So in a nutshell, this data means is pricing is holding steady across the board in general. Inventory has dipped slightly. People in the last couple of months didn't know what was happening, so there was a pullback of listings off of the market. But I think with the reopening, confidence is building, also seeing that the market data didn't fall completely apart and that things are reopening have increased confidence. So what happened, had been some prices in entry to mid-price homes in the market. And this is kind of a reaction to the lowered interest rates because that impacts affordability. So when the interest rates goes down, it really improves the buying power of the buyer. And then because of that, or not causal, but correlated, the more expensive luxury homes have been in the market a little bit longer than last year. So I kind of touched base on that before. And so it is still leaning towards a seller's market. But again, if you or somebody you know is interested in buying, you don't want to neglect the interest rates, right? Because before all this happened, they were starting to creep up. Okay, so there was a little glitch in the hiccup in the finance. So for a while there was all these loans, and even like some stated income loans were starting to come back before the pandemic, and then boom, lots of loans went away. In fact, they were getting creative about not funding loans by saying that, let's say someone like Wells Fargo, for example, didn't say that they were stopped funding loans, but for a minute they were saying that they weren't able to send out appraisers because of the stay-at-home orders and things of that nature. So they had found a workaround to not say they weren't funding loans directly, but they weren't. But again, things have started to change and urge since back to normalcy, and the result, they're back. So that's good. You might see a little bit of a tendency for the financing to have slightly stricter credit scores, but the standard like FHA and VA loans are still coming in at around 660 to 680 minimum FICO score to qualify, and other loans that went away but that are now back are the CalHFA loans, which is like the first time buyer assistance, and they also now have a CalHFA Plus, which allows you to wrap in any closing costs into it for a truly zero down payment loan. So just to dispel the myth that you need 4% down to buy a house, that's not true. You could go from 3.5% for FHA to 0% down with just closing costs with VA, to these new loans that really give you the true no down payment. Obviously, stipulations apply. So if anybody wants more information for themselves or a loved one, they can contact me and I'll put them directly in contact with one of my preferred lenders that can give them the ins and out details. Okay, so now to the meat of it. Real estate is one of the largest transactions, if not the largest transaction that many people make in their lives. And so there is a lot of paperwork, contracts, and legalese around it. And so, of course, in the instance of life-threatening disease, that is nothing different. And so we have a bunch of new forms that are correlated with transactions. And I'm going to show you a bunch of alphabet soup. I'll give you the gist. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you read 6 pages of contracts, nor will I read them to you. Oops. Christie is not here, but I'm Christie for today. So the first one is the listing agreement coronavirus addendum or amendment, and that goes with the purchase agreements. And then we have a couple of PEAD, property entry advisory and declaration documents that are also required. So they have them on the side of the seller as well as any visitors. And this goes over, releasing liability that entering property may, cause illness and or death. And they must also declare that they have not been in contact with or been affected by the virus within a last certain amount of days. Otherwise, it's mandatory that they declare, so then they can kind of investigate and close off and things of that nature. Also, there's a form. I know that this is kind of an aside, but I thought it was important to mention. There's a form because they have all these forbearance on foreclosure right now, not foreclosure, but evictions. And so if you or someone gets into that situation where they come to that point where they're like, I can't pay, but they're not going to get evicted, the PLR is the rental property agreement that should be filled out and then delivered to your landlord person. And it kind of just starts the dialogue of what the terms are going to be for when and how you're going to try and start paying that back. And it puts it kind of just like in a legal contract so that, you're just being responsible. You're not leaving parties high and dry or just like, oh, I'm not paying or no reason or plan moving forward. It just puts it all down in writing. And then I have a couple samples coming up here. So they came up with best practices and guidelines for showing during COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about that more once I get through just the actual documents. And then the plan and the rules need to be posted. So basically, the advisory, the addendum, the declaration, agreement to follow the rules, and the following documents I'm going to show you need to be posted out front of the properties, visible prior to anybody entering the property. So this one's a little bit easier to see, where you can see the rules and regulations for entering. So people have to wear the protective face covering. Immediately upon entry, people have to either wash with soap and water or disinfect. You have to practice the social distancing. You're not allowed to touch anything, so it's recommended that either the listing agent or the selling agent arrives before the buyer and comes and turns on all the lights, fans, opens all the doors, so that when a potential buyer or visitor comes through, they don't have to touch the surfaces. And then after viewing, that any disposable materials related to viewing, masks, gloves are discarded. And see, here's the disclaimer. And then this is the same thing, but not in picture mode. So I guess the pictures in case you can't read and whatever, different stroke for different folks. But both of these need to be there. Now, as far as ultimate responsibility for having all of these things taken care of, it falls upon the listing agent and the listing party. So this also has to be like thoroughly cleaned and disinfected after each showing. So let's say people come by the viewing, they have a few people outside with sanitizer, people come by, and then the home needs to be cleaned. And that is the responsibility of the listing party. So the listing party can contract with the actual seller to have somebody come and clean it on their behalf. It doesn't necessarily have to be the listing agent, but it does have to be done. And all of these things, having the gloves, the sanitizer, everything is ultimately the responsibility of the listing party. Although, it's due diligence and definitely recommended and good care to have these items on you if you are a showing / selling / buyer's agent. So buyer's agent is the selling agent. I know it's confusing, but sometimes, there's the support team where the ultimate responsibility does fall on the listing party. So that's what's going on with that. So in preparation for this, I'm actually going to be doing this talk a little bit more in depth, kind of a seminar panel style in a couple of weeks. So I'll give you a good reason at the end of my presentation why you might want to invite people, if you know anyone interested in the market, to come to that one. But I'll be doing it in conjunction with Eric Peterson of Finance of America, who'll go more in depth on loan programs, and Matthew Pearl of Pearl Appraisal, who is a local appraiser. But I was chatting with him in preparation for this. And the good news is that he hasn't had to do in the last couple of months any negative valuations. That is not to say that that is not going to happen in the near or distant future, because there is a pretty large percentage of properties currently in forbearance. You know, how fast the economy recovers or people get back to work will really determine what happens, you know, kind of beyond the summer as far as kind of a foreclosure market. But right now there's very little distressed properties in San Diego. And you could look at the today and 1 month ago statistics, but moreover, on the third column, the 1 year ago shows that there's still growth. So the little second part on the side, like median list price is up 2% from last year. Still very little distressed properties, and this is as of the middle of May. And then the cost per square foot has gone 8%, up 8%. And so, you know, it's not shrinking away into nothingness because of a couple of months of pandemic and whatever, you know, financial stimulus is out there has helped to keep the market moving, as well as, I'm sure, this is a little bit of conjecture, but, you know, some people are going to have to sell, right? And I'm not necessarily saying their first property, but secondary homes. If people aren't paying, I'm predicting there's going to be movement in that market, you know, second home or vacation rental properties. There'll be some movement in the months to come, definitely. So marketing and selling during COVID, that's something to consider as well, because you know, we don't want people going through the houses, giving unnecessary traffic, especially if the house is occupied. There's some point where people were trying to say that they weren't allowing showings, but that's basically a breach of contract. So you have to let people see the property if they are in contract. So there's an inspection period, right? And so if you're in contract, then you need to be able to let them in to do, and the inspector in, and the appraiser in to do the things they need to do through the transaction to have it come to fruition through escrow. But as far as marketing, some things are tried and true, and some things are kind of 2.0, not one potato, two potatoes. So something that's, oops, how do I go back? Check, I can go back a slide. Here we go. So the one thing that is going to stay the same, the more media you have, the more eyeballs you're going to have on your property. And then the quality of media also matters. So you don't want to go in and just put 3 crappy dark pictures that you took on, even like all the cell phones these days. Get out of here. Oh, please. Sorry, it's my daughter. Are not going to do your property justice. So the most media is the best bet. So always use all the MLS photos that you can. If you can, take professional photos. If not, at least have good lighting, and you know, the quality of cameras on your cell phones are adequate these days. But again, professional is better. And then video tours, virtual tours, and things like that are also helpful as well. But in lieu of the current conditions, virtual tours like Matterport 3D, and that's kind of like the VR version. You've seen them at, like, it's kind of like the schematics that you can turn around and you can look at the like view above, like maybe you'd see these kinds of things on HGTV. Those are becoming more commonplace, as well as drone tours that are they're doing drone tours inside the property, and also option, you know, is just to do the walkthrough tour with like FaceTime or Facebook Live, things of that nature, to do like virtual open houses. And then another feature that I'll be implementing this summer for my clients is called Yaza, and it's like a video walkthrough tour that you can narrate as you go through. And then it also shows placement on the map. So if you have the app, you can go around a neighborhood and pop it up and see the property where it is on the map, as well as other properties that are in Yaza, and then get these video walkthroughs that are narrated in most instances by the realtor, but also could be by the homeowner. And then as far as best practices, just cut down on looky-loos, time wasting, and germ transmission. I would recommend for my clients to really only show in-person viewings to people that at the very least have been pre-qualified and have proof of funds, and additionally people that are willing to write the offer, right? If you're not, then the chances are you're not very serious anyway. And from a listing perspective, you know, you always want to start dialogue, but I think this kind of cuts out a lot of the nonsense of talker, not walkers in the environment of people who are just like, oh, I want to see it. And just, you know, people who just want to come look at your house, which is fun because I like to do that. I mean, that's part of why I love real estate, like looking in people's houses and how they live, what they look like in their stage. It's fun, but it's not fun when you're a professional, you know, and it's taking your time and the people aren't serious. So really only entertaining live in-person showings to people that are really viable prospects. And then just a little personal plug, how professional marketers do it different. Again, I have a master's degree in strategic communications, and my specialty is really online marketing. And so I think an advantage that I have I'll just say most realtors is like my really savvy digital marketing background. You know, I've had some chats with Chuck, and he knows I know what I'm talking about. And but the main difference is that I can write specific marketing plans for a property. So there's about, you know, 20% of your home that's going to appeal to like the right market that's really going to want and buy top dollar. So capturing those aspects of your home, featuring them best, creating a campaign, individual website, putting in front of the right people, like what people are going to buy your house. You know what I mean? If it's in a retirement company, it's not going to be a community, then it's not going to be first-time home buyers. And how do you target the people that actually are going to be looking at your house and not wasting effort and money and time showing the property to people who aren't in the right demographic? And I think the best part of everything in digital marketing in general compared to traditional marketing is your ability to track what's working and track what's not. And my clients, I show them who's coming, where they're coming from, and when it's not going the way we want, we have the opportunity, especially for me, my dollars, because I'm the one spending the money up front on the marketing, but to change directions and say, okay, nobody's coming from, you know, let's just say Redfin, because they're the enemy. Nobody's coming from Redfin, so we're going to just move our efforts to, you know, video ads. We're going to do some YouTube ads, and we're going to target this demographic on YouTube ads because of this feature and that feature. So the ability to see how the marketing is working on your property and then changing it so that it's optimized all the time and in real time. So that's fun. Actually, it is fun for me. I'm a nerd. And then a look ahead, and this is short run estimates of the effects of COVID on the housing market, according to CAR, also known as California Association of Realtors. The economy will shrink by 30–40% in Q2. Unemployment to exceed 24%. I think we're creeping up to like 25% now, based on like recent data and reports. So this is not in dollars, this is on the numbers of listings. So make that distinction. It just price impacts to remain only in the single digits. And then the wild card is, now that they're letting us out of the house, is there going to be like a reflux of like a second wave of the virus? And time will tell, you know. and expect, this to be a challenge. And then again, just the caveat is a wild card of what happens with everything, right? We weren't expecting all these riots to be happening and things. So life is always changing, and you just have to look for the happy accidents and stuff when you do get redirected. But I think that's all I have for now. Oh. Yay, right at the end of the tunnel. Oh yeah. So I was gonna say, what do you guys care? I don't know. Maybe you aren't in the market to buy a house, and I like to start out the conversation with that because I'm more about getting to know you all as people first. But if you aren't, then I'll give you 500 reasons why you should tell people that you know about me, right? So what can you buy with $500? You can buy about, let's see, how many, 5, 20, 20, 30 masks, 1,500 diapers. Oh, this was mine specifically for me, 15.5 old fashions, 14 oil changes, whatever. But if you send me somebody and we end up doing business together, then I will write you a check at the close of escrow for $500 every single time. Works 60% of the time, 100% of the time, like they said on Anchorman.